Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about For All Mankind, Season 1, Episode 1. It's called Red Moon. So, start spoiler free, because it is an Episode 1, and this is one of the new shows from Apple Plus, or Apple TV Plus, or is it Apple Plus TV? what way around is it?
I don't know. I just clicked on the link and went, that'll do.
I don't know. It's one of the new shows. They launched a bunch of new shows today, 4 of which are sort of dramas like this. We also are doing C, the Jason Momoa one, but this is the alternate history show, which is at least co-created by Ronald D. Moore, who worked on Battlestar Galactica and was a writer on Next Generation and things like that. So this is alternate history where Russia gets to the moon first, where the Soviets get to the moon before Apollo 11. And it kind of goes down that path of, okay, how does that change things, and where do we go from here? So it's set in, at least to begin with, it's set in 1969. It's set because it's not like it's much earlier. It's like earlier that year.
It's like a month earlier or something like that.
So that is the basic premise of the show. I'll just kind of leave it there. We follow various astronauts. And their wives. I guess actually one of the things I'd say about it is that it very much feels like a lot of stuff that's set at, not just at that time, but like around this subject. I feel like there's elements of Apollo 13 and First Man, and like I can almost feel like a concoction of all those different movies.
It feels kind of authentic.
Yes.
Like there's a point where the astronauts all go out in the they race into the bar. They all jump out to the cars, and they've all got the Corvettes. And that's exactly what all the NASA astronauts drove at the time, because they were given them for like $1. So it was one of those things. It makes it feel real, even though it's this alternate history.
Yeah, it's realistic. At least for now. Obviously, the more alternate we go, the more it'll feel.
It might diverge more, yeah.
But at least right now, it does feel quite authentic, despite the fact that obviously there's this one big change. And it's like we see. So the first episode is largely about how this affects them and what changes because of it. Introduces a couple of the main characters and gives us the key players. There's one subplot with I think I want to say Mexican. I actually can't remember where the caption said it went.
I don't remember.
Cut to her.
I was too busy looking at the subtitles.
So it could be elsewhere, but I think it was Mexico. We introduced this kid character who loses their parent, their mum, and not much context for what the subplot's leading to. Obviously, I'm sure it's going to tie in
at some point
eventually. Yeah. But at least right now, it's just kind of this little subplot bubbling over. But yeah, the main gist of it is the astronauts. A few recognizable faces in there. Joel Kinnaman plays Edward Baldwin, who is kind of probably the closest thing we have to a main character. And also his wife is Patty Spivot from The Flash. Who's what's her name? Chantel Van Santen's her name. I didn't realize that was her name. And then out of nowhere, Bobby from The Deuce appeared.
He's one of the bosses.
Yeah, I'd say he's kind of typecast, but I mean, he's never been. I've never seen him as in a role that would inquire. This character has to be fairly like intelligent and like trained and like worked hard to get where he is.
Kind of straight edged, even though he's got a rougher side.
Yeah. Whereas, obviously Bobby in The Deuce and even his character from The Wire, like, I can't imagine him working at NASA.
Yeah. Do you know what you say is typecast? It's just because he's got his voice just sounds like that character.
It does. No, he's got a voice. It definitely has a distinct sound to it. Yeah, so that's the premise of the show. Connor, did you enjoy this? And not to spoil our discussion of C, but did this fare better than the other one?
It is better than C. I will give it that.
By a cataclysmic margin.
I mean, this could be like a 3 out of 10. It would still be better by a cataclysmic margin.
True.
I don't love it, though. It's got quite a few problems. Pacing being a huge one.
I liked it well enough. I think it nails kind of the like I said, the tone of a lot of the movies that are about this subject in this time period. It's kind of captured that like that optimism, that hopeful kind of thing, but it's got this sort of twist to it because they're all kind of like jaded and depressed now because they get beat. So it's like, okay, this is an interesting twist on it. Let's see how this does. So it nails the feel that I kind of expect this to have. It also has the the stuff that we actually see of like the ships in the moon looks pretty good. Like,
yeah, it does. I'll give it that.
It doesn't look bad by any means.
I think there was one time, it was when they were up by the rocket before it launched, that felt off. I don't know, it was just something in the background. It just didn't sit right within the composition. But all the actual the effects when it's orbiting the moon and stuff like that look great.
Yeah, because one of the things this episode does is it also has the Apollo 11 mission, at least to a point. We see some of it, and the episode, it focuses on the characters. Ed, his reaction to everything, just kind of how everyone kind of loses their shit and goes and gets drunk and like all that kind of stuff. And it is a bit overlong. I would agree with that because it's about 65 minutes. This first episode, all the episodes,
a nice 40.
All the episodes that are up so far, the first 3 are all available right now. They're going weekly after this, though, kind of the Hulu model, and they're all about an hour long. They're all about 60 minutes, which is potentially okay. Like I didn't think this dragged too much, but it did definitely feel like you could, like, I mean, you could cut out the subplot. Maybe you could speed up a few.
I think
it's
elements. More just there are things that the time would be better spent doing if we're going to be this long. Like our main character, I feel like we didn't really spend that much time with him. Out of the 60 minutes, it felt like it was a relatively small fraction of the time that was actually dealing with him. And like his wife, I think we saw like twice in the whole episode. Maybe. And
it was a bit more than that. It was more like 4 or 5, but
I can only think of 2 distinct times. Actually, no, 3, sorry. Including one's their introduction. So, I mean, I feel like there could have been a bit more time spent on that instead of some other stuff, perhaps.
What other stuff, though? What would you take out?
What would I take out? I would probably some of the character Margot. I would probably leave most of that stuff till like episode 2, and kind of, I think, especially have an introduction scene. I think is fine, but then she has like an extra subplot with the German scientist there, and about her relationship with her father. I think all that stuff didn't need to be in the first episode.
Okay, I was going to disagree with you because I think her introduction should be there, but then you sort of amended that, so
yeah,
fair enough. No, I think her introduction should be there, but yeah, that's fair, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it plays out like a lot of stuff, although it does have this added little twist to it where, because we're in an alternate history now, it has this idea of like, and I won't get to it, but when they started to launch the Apollo 11 mission, which obviously is the one that landed on the moon, there was part of me that went, but this might fail now. Like, what if we go with the idea they're rushing because they're rushing because because they've been beaten. There's all this pressure, and there's some fancy. They've got like a good Nixon impersonator, like doing like audio tape footage of, or not footage. What I mean, audio tape recordings of like him like being upset about being beaten by the Soviets to get to the moon and stuff like that. So that's neat.
Yeah, I think, do you know what is weird? This is going to sound like a strange complaint here. You're talking about how authentic it feels, almost to a fault, in that even though I know that this is alternate history, it's going to be doing different things, I feel like I've seen it before.
So
far, yeah. But that's, as a first episode trying to grab me, I don't think it does enough to be different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the weird thing is here, though, is that there's a good chance that they knew they were putting 3 episodes out at launch, and they didn't necessarily think they had to grab everyone just in one episode. Like they've got 3.
I think it's worth noting that Apple let you watch at least one for free, even without signing up, I think.
Oh, really interesting.
So, on that basis, maybe you could have made an argument that, okay, you've got one to really grab people.
Did they know that when they were writing them, though?
I don't.
That's the thing. Like, how? I mean, they might not even known they were going to put up 3, but I'm assuming they might have done just because it feels like, based on this episode, that maybe they thought, oh, maybe we've got a few episodes to hook them rather than just the one. And the reason why I'm kind of guessing that is based on the trailers and kind of where the premise is going to go. Episodes, they just from the thumbnails on the on the site, Although check a review of C for me to complain about the web player, because there was a lot of complaints.
We have problems,
tech issues. But based on the thumbnail for the third one, it looks like the actual real premise of the show kicks in by episode 3. So I'm going to make the assumption just based on that, at least right now.
I don't remember the trailer well enough to understand what you're describing as the real premise.
The main mission we're going to focus on for the season. I'll just say that. I don't want to spoil it in case people have been avoiding trailers. But the main mission seems to be like it's kicking into gear in episode 3. So it stands to reason that they thought, okay, no, the first 3 are going to kind of act as a big pilot. You know, this is kind of backstory up until this point.
Sure.
Which is fine. I thought it was a really easy watch, though. I think it went down fairly easy. I never felt...
I found myself losing focus a few times.
My biggest problem was just my tech faults with the stupid web player.
That is frustrating, yeah. But no, maybe twice over the hour, I found myself just losing focus and having to actively kind of remind myself to sit up and pay attention.
Yeah, I never really had that. I had that a lot in C, but not so much in For All Mankind.
No, it was worse in C.
So, I think we'll give a spoiler warning so we can talk about what happens in here. So, full spoilers for the episode, if that wasn't clear. Like I said, I got really interested. They're putting up the Apollo 11 mission, and we don't even do like the whole big launch thing. Like we don't spend a lot of time basking in because that's what in First Man. Literally, there's like a 20-minute launch sequence with music playing and I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, it's excellent.
But this episode does not choose to focus on that. It kind of okay, we're orbiting the moon. They're going to go down. They're in the lander. Blah blah blah. And what I liked about it is, like, immediately I was thinking, right, something might go wrong here now, because as much as it's Apollo 11, it might actually, things have changed.
Not the Apollo 11 as we know it.
There is this scare where they, it looks like they might have crashed, but to everyone on comms in Houston, it's just, well, everything's went black. There's no communications now.
Yeah, and they're trying, because we have a little time skip here that it shows us on the clock, and we skip like a good 2 hours of them just trying to get contact.
Yeah, because they try to get the third guy who's in orbit to he's going to be passing over the spot in an hour. Maybe he can look through his telescope and see if he can see anything. That'll be like the best we've got. And we get to a point where this third astronaut, I'm sorry I can't remember his name, no one ever remembers the name of the third one. we all know Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. The third one, I'm sorry. So the third one's like actually on the comms, and he's saying, you know what, I decided before we came out, if something like this happened, I didn't want to come home. So they're having this really sort of depressing conversation where they're saying, no, we're ordering you to come home, you're not in charge. And as Bobby from The Deuce rightly points out, he's 20,000 miles away from home. What are you going to do? How are you going to enforce this? Like, literally, if he doesn't follow orders, there's nothing you can do to like reprimand him. He's just out there. He's just going to be out there and die. You can't say anything to him. And like
Michael Collins was his name.
Sorry?
Michael Collins.
Okay, so you have to, like, that was interesting, but then it does the kind of the thing where it was all a fake out, and it was like, no, they are okay. They have a bit of a bumpy landing.
I think fake out is a little bit disingenuous as a term there. The connotations that come with that because it was to them was real as well. Like in the episode, it's not like it was pulling the wool over our eyes as an audience, which is I think what fake out implies has these connotations of.
No, it's still a fake out. Fake out does not necessarily mean just as a bullshit thing for the audience. A fake out's a fake out.
It has connotations of that. It does.
It's it's still a fake out. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but it's a fake out. So it's like, okay, so we kind of end in this kind of happy point, and it's like, okay, that's great news. Now we just have to figure out how to get them home. So I feel like maybe episode 2 will deal with that for a little bit. I can see it not being the whole episode though, because I feel like another show might make that the whole episode. Like, okay, how do we get them home if there's like a problem with the eagle and stuff? But I feel like this show is going to kind of get through it a bit quicker than that, because we're going to get to, because it was kind of like how this one kind of got through the first half of the Apollo 11 mission quite quickly. It was like all of a sudden we're already in orbit and we're landing.
Yeah, I kind of skipped over a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, so
I'll be honest, there was. I mean, I had only a vague memory of the trailer. I was almost a little surprised there wasn't a time jump after the opening sequence of, oh hey, and now it's you see it's the Russians. it was just like a vague surprise in my head that we're still sticking in the 60s. We're not jumping way far ahead to see the repercussions of this. We're kind of following it.
I don't think we're going to have much of it. We may have a little time jump, but based on the name of episode 3 and the fact that that's the main mission we're dealing with, I don't think we're jumping that far ahead. Because Nixon's still definitely president, so we're not jumping...
Can't we get that far then, no.
Too far. I mean, what was Watergate? 72? 71? Yeah. No, I mean, I liked the first episode well enough. And there was some other character stuff. We get a little bit of the marriage between Ed and Karen, because Ed, like, he kind of accidentally reveals some details because they're all pissed off, and they kind of like blame NASA for holding them back because NASA's like, very strict about being safe and not doing anything risky. But they all have this because they're all fighter pilots, right? So they're all like, no. We accept every time we go up, it might be our last time. We might not come back. So that's why we get beaten by the Russians, because we weren't willing to take the risks. And he says this to a reporter when he's drunk, and his wife gets mad at him because he has this whole code thing where he doesn't talk about anything to do with his job, including how he feels about it. So he's like, well, maybe I'll just come drinking with you, with the guys, and maybe you'll get drunk and tell me how you feel. So they have a whole fight thing. It's an okay scene. Tells enough about them. It's not super compelling.
It's not tedious as a scene, but it's not particularly great.
I did like them all watching the moon landing though, and like basically losing their shit when the comms went dead, and like they're all just like sitting there staring and panicking and whatever. Because you also get the happy moment, of course, when it comes back, and it's on the news. Oh, NASA have re-established contact. Like,
yeah, because obviously it's all being broadcast live at first, so when it goes dead, it just goes dead for all of them, and you hear them going.
Yeah. And obviously, falling out. And obviously, the TV stations don't stay on just the live audio feed. They cut back to the station because no one wants to hear 2 hours.
They stay on it long enough to hear the first, couple of call outs.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, they're not responding, and it kind of enough for it to sink in, I think.
And enough that they're all terrified, that they all think they're all dead. Yeah, I think it's a fairly solid pilot. It definitely isn't like great yet. I think it's good enough for what it's doing. And I see potential for it to kind of become more, because I don't think it's in the meat of what it's exploring yet. I feel like we're not quite there yet in this first episode, and
that's true. And
I think that's okay. As for I'm willing to do more of this. I think we'll maybe wait and see if there's interest in us doing more of this. See if people are interested. So by all means, let us know in the comments if you want us to cover more For All Mankind, and if you make sure you like and all that usual stuff. All that stuff lets us know people are interested. But so we'll see what the interest level is like. But I am definitely willing to do more.
I am as well. Like I say, I think it's the pacing is a concern for me. That might be just consistent. That would probably feel like a bit of a chore to me if it was paced like this all season.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So let us know. Make a ruckus if you want more. And we will look to doing it. Maybe even doing episode 2 by the end of the weekend as a possibility.
It's possible. Yeah.
So let us know, and let us know what you think of the first episode. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at @mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show, you can rate the podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, so wherever you get your podcasts from, and that helps us out because they recommend us out, and they show us on the top charts and whatnot. But you can also support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can do that for as little as $1 per month and get some bonus episodes of certain shows we do, get exclusive series and things like that. You can also get voting rights and other bits and bobs throughout. So go and have a look on Patreon and see if you want to do that, and make sure all the content keeps coming. But that is otherwise us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?